Sometimes you want to work with panoramas, not just single photos. So in this video I'm going to show you how I combine panoramas for work with exposure blending. As you can see, I have here, this is a 3-photo panorama, each one made from 5 exposures. So I'm starting as always in Lightroom, where I do few initial tweaks to the photos. So let's choose one to do them on. For instance, this one. What I see, I have to, as always when you do a panorama, switch to develop, and first thing to correct is the lens distortion, as we want to remove all the vignetting so the photos combine into panoramas better. So I just click enable profile correction. It removes the vignetting from the corners and also removes a little bit of the distortion from the photo. Also, as always, remove chromatic aberrations to make the photo cleaner. I think there are some by the castle, yeah, they are gone. And I also see that this photo is a little too warm because, as you can see, it's all too yellow. So let's go and correct the white balance. I think, yeah, this is how it should be. The bit should be a little more gray, as that's how it looks in real life. So this is quite okay. I will maybe tone the highlights a little down because I feel that, yeah, even on this, the castle is still too bright. So I will go a little down with the highlights, and I will add a little noise reduction under detail. So yeah, so I think this is all okay. So I now have to choose Ctrl A all the photos I have here and sync the settings in between also. Check all, synchronize. Okay, we'll do a little while. Okay, now I have all the photos with the same edits done. From here, I just export them. I have my preset here, which is done. It creates a folder and it's export all the images as 16-bit TIFF files. No resize, no compression. You can choose compression, but yeah, we will delete the files anyway later, so no need. So I just export them. Okay, it's 15 files, so yeah, it's TIFF files, so it will take a little while. So I jumped a little ahead so you don't have to wait with me for the export. We are already on the last image and it exported all, so you don't need Lightroom anymore. Okay, so I'm here in Bridge. I have all the 15 files exported. As you can see, I get a quite nice brightness range and also quite good. So for combining these photos into a panorama, I use a program called PTGUI. In PTGUI, you just have to choose all the files and put them into PTGUI where it loads. You can see the colors are not as the files used to be. That's because PTGUI cannot show 16-bit colors, it only shows 8-bit colors. So it looks a little different, but that's okay. Now, if you have to select align images, and PTGUI should detect this. These are bracketed exposures. If this does not happen, you probably have a photo there that does not have the same time or the exposure as all the other, or one of the series has more photos than the other series. You have to get this to be able to do what we need to do. So here I know I shot this from a tripod, so I can choose the first option and link the bracketed images. Then that's when you shoot from tripod. The HDR method does not matter because we will not use PTGUI to create the HDR. So I just click OK. We'll now analyze all the photos. Okay, you can see it's aligned them nicely, but you can see these borders from all the images. that's nothing to be afraid of. It's just it tries to show you all the different exposures, and that's what happens. If you had only one series in it, it will show nicely, but in the final, when you save it, this will go away. So I like how it's aligned, but I don't like that the horizon is a little curvy, so I will just click my mouse and pull it a little to the up until the horizon line is nice and straight. You can use the line that PTGui gives you as the center. So I quite like it. And yeah, that's all I needed to do in this. No other corrections here. Usually also when you shoot, you have to go with cylindrical when you shoot from a panorama head, or even if you shoot just directly. The other ones are for different types of panoramas, but for a normal one, cylindrical is the ones you want to go with. So I can close this and I get back here and I can click Create Panorama. Here I go with maximum size, nothing changes, it was already there. I save it as a TIFF, and I also do it as a 16-bit TIFF, same as I had before. I can choose compression, I don't need to. This again will be just temporary files. I don't need the alpha channel because, yeah, don't need the alpha channel there. Click OK. And now as an output, you can choose if you want to have the output as an individual layers, that it creates a file with all the layers separately. I don't need that. I don't need the fused panorama because I don't want PTGui to create a HDR for me. So I don't need that, but I need blended planes. What this means is for every brightness exposure I had, so I had 5 different exposures when I put the photos into PTGui, it will create a separate panorama for every one of them. So I click Create Panorama. You will see in the moment what I mean with that, with the separate panorama for everyone. Okay, this takes a moment. If you blend a lot and big images, you need a very strong computer for that. But this one is, yeah, just 3 images, so it's not so horrible. Okay, it's saved. I can go back to Bridge. And this is what I got. From these 15 photos, I got 5 different panoramas. And each one is at a different brightness. Okay, and they look quite good. So what I do next is just choose the ones, just the panoramas, I don't need this anymore, and load them into Photoshop layers. Okay, again, I have to wait a moment. Second, third, fourth, and the 5th one. Okay, so let's blend them together. But at first, I see that when I corrected the horizon, the left side got a little pulled in, so it's not straight. So I choose the perspective crop tool and push this a little bit in and click OK, click enter, so it crops that side. Okay, and now the castle, you can see it's straight. So I choose a crop tool and I don't want to remove so much, but this bottom part, just so it's not there, and crop. So now I have it cropped and I have to choose from where to start. So I usually start from the one where I like the sky the most. So I just go to all the folders. I choose the sky because sky is usually the hardest thing to blend. In this case also the water, the less I have to blend on the water, the better. So I think I like this one the most. This one is a little too dark. So I will start with this one. So I will put it on the bottom of the pile and hide everything else. So what I need to correct. First of all, I need to correct the corners since, yeah, I don't want to leave them black. I need to darken the castle, darken the part of the bridge, and I need to brighten the hill. Other than that, I think it's quite okay. Still maybe a little sharpening and contrast. So let's start with the corners. I duplicate this layer because I never edit directly on the one I start with. I choose the magic wand tool and select, go a little slower. I select the corners. Now I want to, since I will fill this up with the content aware tool, I want to make the selection a little bigger. So I just go select, modify, expand, and choose 5 pixels. It will just make the selection a little bigger, so the transition between the original image and that what I create is not visible, because normally you could get a small thin line there. So as you can see, okay, all the selections are like that. And now I go shift backspace and choose content aware. Shift backspace is fill. You can do it also different way. Shift backspace is the simplest. I go OK. Photoshop will work. And still working. Okay, and I have it filled. I can deselect now. Okay, this is nice, this is nice, this is nice, this is not nice. So this is something I still have to correct. See, it didn't create it as nice as I wanted, so we try something else. I try going with the, this is the patch tool, and I just select it and I pull it up. Okay, that's much better. And I select this and pull it up here. Still a little bit more, and go with content aware for the middle. No, that's not, doesn't look good. So I do this and this. Ah, that's look quite nice. You can see before and after. So it's actually, you don't have to be that detailed, because this is a very small part of the image, and I will only see it because I'm already at 100%. So like this you will never see the detail there, so this is enough. Okay, now I have to darken the bright spots, so I go with the first, I arrange it so I have it from the brightest to darkest. This one I currently don't need. So this was +1 exposure, so this one is a 0 exposure, so I hide it with the layer mask, and then go into the channels palette, hold the Ctrl key and click on the RGB channel. So you can see from the matching ends I have a quite nice selection, but it's still too big of a selection, so I go Ctrl Alt Shift and click once more. Again, it's a smaller selection, but with the layer mask, there is not a hard transition, there is a soft transition, so I have to click once more, so I have a little, again with the Ctrl Shift selected, so I have a more precise selection, and when I start to paint, it doesn't overflow into other parts. So now I can go with Ctrl H and hide the selection. It's still there, but I don't see it. It isn't in my way. I go choose the layer mask, go on the brush and choose a white brush. I can go quite high opacity, that's okay. And when I start brushing here, as you can see, this is what I brushed. The castle becomes darker, also the detail gets back. Okay, I like that. Now I can go here and start painting into the bridge. The lights become darker and it looks quite nice. And even more here. Go once over so it's there, and also in the water. That's maybe even too much, so I can switch to black, go with the lower opacity and remove what I brushed into the water partially. So to see what I did, this is the layer mask I created, and this is before and this is after brushing. As you can see on the if I open the layer mask, you can see I went a little outside of what I wanted. I wanted to brush only on the castle, so I need to correct this. The simplest way to correct this is to choose the burn tool, choose shadows and choose a high exposure. I also have to deselect first, because if I have the selection still there, it will not work. So what does the burn tool do? It takes all the shadows I paint over and makes them darker. So if I paint over a bright spot, it will do nothing. So I can start, and I start painting from the side. As you can see, just what shadows become darker, and I get a nice layer mask here, really nice. If I paint it in the middle, see, nothing happens. It takes something from the roof, but that's not such a problem, you don't have to have it. Okay, let's undo that. So now we have a really lovely layer mask that only affects what we need it to affect. I quite like already the walls. I still want to make the castle a little darker because it's still really bright. Let's check on the layer mask on this. Again, you can see, or maybe you can see because it's really not so visible, that I went a little outside of the bridge into the sky. So I don't want that. So again, I choose this, and with the burn tool, I just make these parts darker. Okay, and now the layer mask is almost, it's not perfect, but it's good enough to be used. Okay, so let's next step. Again, I choose the, I think this is the -1 exposure, and I do the same thing. I create the layer mask, which is black, so it hides all. I go into the channels window and Control click on the RGB channel, and then Control Alt Shift click again, Control Alt Shift click again. Control Alt Shift click is, you should see this X by your mouse cursor when you hold them all together. If you just see Control Shift, you will have a plus. If you have Control Alt, it's a minus. But we need the X. Okay, so again I have a selection. Select this layer mask, choose a brush. Again, I will go with white, high opacity. I can hide the layer mask, hide the matching ends, because yeah, you don't see much when they're there, so Ctrl H, but don't forget them there, because they are still there. And I can take and I can start painting over the castle. Okay, that's nice. I see that I'm also painting into the sky, but I can correct that. I will go a little here, maybe a little here. This goes a little down. I get the bridge. Yes, okay. I don't want to darken this anymore. Maybe a little bit of this should be darker. Okay, so I get this. Again, I go into the layer mask. See, I have to correct this one, so I deselect with Ctrl D, choose the choose the burn tool, and I just carefully go around the castle so it darkens the dark spots and so corrects the layer mask. Okay, let's look at this. If I need to correct this, oh, this looks okay. Maybe here down a little. Okay, so we blended another, and I like the castle as it is. It's not completely black, but it's okay. You don't have to have it completely, because from this one it's maybe too dark. No, maybe I do it anyway. So let's do that. Go into create a layer mask, create a selection, and paint with white brush into the selections, and then just go and correct. Okay, so the castle is okay. I still want to darken this. I had a selection, so I don't know, I can reselect, and I have them back there so you can see it. Ctrl H, and I can darken the lights. Oops, wrong tool selected. I can darken the lights even more. Okay, so we got rid of the white parts now. So if I show you the before and show you the after, all the white spots are gone. Maybe the castle is even too dark now, so I just, with nothing selected, go with the 20% black brush over the castle, so I will make it softer in this, so I make it darker. Now the castle is not so bright, dark. Okay, now for the dark spots. I have here the +2 exposure, which I want to use to brighten the hill a little and maybe a part of the bridge. So again, I will hide this so I don't see it. I will click with the Ctrl selected on the RGB channel, and I will not use this mask, I need to invert it. So I will create a new channel from this selection. You can see it, it's this one. I have to deselect. This is a channel that selects all the bright parts, but I want to select all the dark parts, so I go Ctrl I to invert it. So now I have a channel that shows all the dark parts. So I go back to the mask, and with the mask selected, I go, with the mask, I go and Ctrl click on this new channel. It starts selecting the dark parts. It's an inverted selection from what we had. So if I go and Ctrl Alt Shift click on this, it will isolate more and more the darkest parts of the photo. So I will do that until I see only the parts I want. So now you see I have only selected the darkest part of the bridge, a little bit into water, maybe by the rocks, and this. Even parts that are not selected, or better said, you don't see the matching ends next to them, they are still selected. They are just selected with not 200%. These parts are selected to 100%. So with this selection, I can take a white brush and start painting into these spots. So let's hide the selection. Let's go here, and I will start painting because I want this a little brighter. As you can see, this part got brighter, but also a little of the brightness gets into the sky, but we will correct that later. And I go onto the hill. Just softly, I have a 20% brush, so you can see the hill gets brighter, but not that much. Okay, and this is the mask I created. Again, I can deselect, choose the burn tool, and correct the edges. Once this is corrected, I can go back, and we have our panorama blended. So I started with this, and I corrected the dark and bright areas of the photo. It's still not a finished photo because it's a little bland, so let's do a few more tweaks on it. I will first merge this photo into a new layer, so Ctrl Alt Shift E to merge all the layers. You can go layer new, there is something merge visible, that's the one. So I created this, and on this I can, let's use a filter. Let's use Nik Collection Color FX Pro. It takes a while to load because this is quite a big image, around I think 8000 per 4000 pixels, so it takes a while. Okay. Okay, should be open now, and here it is. So let's choose poor contrast. I have it as favorites, but you can find it under all and poor contrast. And here I go and add a little bit of, maybe a little more of the dynamic contrast, so it pulls from the photo, and a little of correct contrast. Color cast does not really do anything in here. It's before and after. Quite like maybe a little more color, but I can add that with the hue saturation layers. So let's click OK on this. Okay. Okay. So I quite like it, but as you can see, it made the castle much brighter than it was, and I don't like that. So again, add the layer mask, make it black, or you just did. Oh, excuse me, leave it white. Now what I will do, I want to remove the part of the castle from this layer. So I go into channels, I create a selection where I have the brightest parts of the photo, get a brush, make it black, and into this layer I start painting where the castle is. And maybe also this part. So what that does, as you can see, it was before the mask, after the mask. So the castle is not affected by this filter. Okay, so I like that quite a lot, and let's see what else we can do. Let's add a little bit of contrast. So I choose curves. I like to choose just the linear contrast from it. And as you can see, I made a mistake here because it created for me a layer mask. It created this, which I didn't want it, but I forgot to deselect before I created the new layer, so I have to fill this with white to take the effect. So again, it adds a little. Okay, and add a little more structure to this photo. So I go and create another merge layer, Ctrl-Shift-Alt-E, and go under Filter, Other, High Pass. And as you can see what this does, it creates more structure from the edges in the photo. So okay, 2.5 pixels should be okay for this one. So I just click OK, and I go and choose for this layer selected, I choose soft light. You see before, after, before, after. The change is not so dominant, but it's okay, it's enough. So we went from this to this. I think it's quite okay, and we can use this as the finished photo. Maybe before I put it on the web, there will be a second step of sharpening, but that will be in a different video.